We're coming up to the end of the third chapter of Kiddushin. We're in Mishnah 10, and we are engaged with questions differential information. So two people have different understandings as to what has happened. Now, ideally, there should be witnesses. Then there have to be witnesses for Kiddushin, but in ancient times, perhaps the witnesses are not available. Maybe they live in a different town. Anyway, for whatever reason, there is a disagreement. Someone says to a woman, I betrothed you. Vehi omeret lo kidashtani. And she says, you did not betroth me. So they disagree about the facts. And we've said, by the way, already that, of course, her consent is required. So what's the outcome? Hu asur bi krovoteha. He is prohibited to her relatives. He can't marry her relatives. Now, we learned in a Mishnah in Yevamot, it's actually taught in the connection of chalitza. Someone who does a chalitza with his Yevamah, but the result is, even after the chalitza, he's forbidden to marry her relatives. It's the 7th Mishnah in the 4th chapter of Yevamot. And the Mishnah there actually gives a list. He can't marry her mother, her grandmother on her father's side, her daughter, her granddaughter, and her sister. All of these are forbidden relationships, even after divorce. They're permanently forbidden. This was the dispute, right, between Henry VIII and the Pope, that Henry VIII wanted to marry his divorced wife's sister. And deceased or his divorced. I'm not sure. Anyway, he wanted to marry his wife's sister, and he couldn't do that. That was the dispute with the Pope. And other than the Pope had, I think they employed Jewish scholars actually, because you can't do that. You can't do that. So if you declare to a woman, I've betrothed you, even if she doesn't agree, by your own admission, you're forbidden to her relatives. But Vahi muteret bi krovav, she's permitted to his relatives. Because, okay, she hasn't admitted this. So he's restrained by his own words, but his words do not restrain her. And similarly, the other way around. Kidashtani, you betrothed me. Vehu omer lo kidashtich. He says, I did not betroth you. Hu mutar bi krovoteha, so he's permitted to her relatives. Vehi asura bi krovav. She is forbidden to his relatives. She's made the declaration. She's restricted. What if the disagreement is a little more subtle than that? So he says, kidashtich. He says, I betrothed you. Vehi omeret lo kidashta ela biti. She says, you betrothed my daughter. Really interesting. Maybe they look very similar. A lot of people say my wife and my daughter look just the same. You betrothed my daughter. Asur bi krovot gdula. So he's forbidden to the relatives of the, referred to as the gdula in the Mishnah, the big one. The gdula, that's the mother, the elder one. Ugdula muteret bi krovav. And the elder one, that's the mother, is permitted with his relatives, clearly because she hasn't made the admission. Mutar bi krovot ktana, and he's also permitted to the relatives of the daughter. Uktana muteret bi krovav, and the daughter's permitted to his relatives. So he's only restricted where he has made the admission. And the Mishnah then just continues playing these mind games. Really interesting that the Mishnah chooses to work out all the possible combinations. And the Gemara, of course, is going to ask why. So he might say, Kidash yit bidech, I betrothed your daughter. Vehi omeret, lo kidash ele oti. He says, I betrothed your daughter. And she says, no. You betrothed me. You betrothed me. So how's it going to play out? Well, as before, they are each restricted by the declarations that they've made. So, asur bi krovot katana, he is forbidden to the relatives of the daughter because he claims to betroth the daughter. The daughter's permitted to his relatives because she doesn't agree. He's permitted to the relatives of the mother. She's referred to again as the Gdula. He's permitted to the relatives of the mother. Ugdula asura bikrovav. But the mother is forbidden to his relatives. They are each bound by the admission that they make.